That's how we can do. This is my favorite thing to show chefs, and they never believe it in the iVario Pro. I can make risotto in 15 minutes, and I only have to stir it 3 times.
Explain. Hello, chefs. This is Chef's PSA, and I'm your host, Andre Natera. Today's guest is Brandon Harpster, certified executive chef, national corporate chef for Rational USA. Brandon was named Chef of the Year by the Nebraska Restaurant Association and currently leads culinary training programs nationwide. We're going to talk advanced cooking today, cooking with connected technology, real-world applications with modern cooking equipment, how to make stocks, risotto, and cook the perfect Peking duck. Stay tuned.
Years ago, it was my first executive chef job, and I was...
Where was this at?
In Lincoln, Nebraska.
Lincoln, Nebraska, yeah.
And I was a chef at a country club. It was my first executive chef job. And, it's a lot to do. And we had the big Mother's Day brunch was coming up, right? That I'm not even going to talk about Mother's Day brunch in general for the chefs out there, but they all know. But one of the things that we always featured was steamship rounds. So we would have to roast these, and we roasted them in this old cook and hold type, I don't even want to call it an oven, just a cook and hold thing, right?
Like the big red box or whatever it was?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. We had 2 of them, the steamship rounds, 1 in each one. And always my concern was, you load it in there, it cooks to a certain temp, and then it goes into hold. And you're always worried that, is everything gonna be okay in the morning? Because you're kind of screwed if you don't have it, right?
Yeah.
So what happened was my biggest fear, and I always wanted to get up in the middle of the night and go check, like drive out to the club and check. It wasn't that far from where I lived, but I didn't. And I walked in, and one of the cook and holds went down. Like it was just dead. The meat was spoiled. Opened it up, and it was just horrible. I think we probed the meat, and it was like a 90, so it just sat at that temperature all night.
Just fermenting.
Yeah. And so we had another one, and it was fine in the other one. And then I had a backup one in the cooler still, because we had another event the next week that also had that on the menu. So we get the one, we have it ready, it's good to go. I start breaking down my raw one into smaller pieces so I can start trying to get it cooked for when we need it. And so luckily I'm trained as a butcher, so breaking it down, I can do it pretty quick, this whole steamship. And I'm breaking it down, and we're popping it in the convection oven, trying to get it cooked. It's not the right way to cook it anyways, right? Because you got to cook that low and slow. And then next thing I know is the food's starting to go out to the buffet. These pieces, these little chunks of now broken down individual muscles of the steamship round are cooking. And what my sous chef comes back, and he's just like white. And I was like, what happened? He's like, the steamship that we had cooked, he's like, it just fell on the ground. Like, so they went to put it on the table, and the bottom knuckle hadn't been cut off, so it was rounded on there. They sat it down standing up like we always do, and it rolled right off the table.
Oh.
I mean, there were already guests coming in. They were already starting to seat because they always showed up early. So now I'm freaking out. So now we're having to serve these pieces that are, they're not cooked. It wasn't definitely by far. I just slice it really thin.
It's like the piece that's cooked well done on the outside and raw in the center still.
Yeah. So it was just such a nightmare. And then so I've told this story to people before, and if I had been using one of our iCombi Pros, we can have that connected to the internet. We connected to ConnectedCooking, and you could actually real time pull it up and look and see what the cooking stage is, where it's at, if it's in hold yet, or any of those things. So I could have been checking and monitoring that, in the middle of the night when I was laying awake, hoping that everything was okay.
Yeah.
That would have solved my problem. I could have got on it, looked at it, and seen, oh, something's wrong here. I gotta get out there, and get this fixed.
Yeah, the technology is wild. Is there an option to set an alarm so it'll alert you at home if there's a problem on your phone?
Through some of the settings, you can do that. Yeah. It will alert you when it's done.
Okay.
So that's usually what I recommend for people to do is it tells you that it just sends you a note that you can, a push notification that says cooking's ended. Mm-hmm. And then you could go look and see if it's on hold or anything, and then you could pull it up live and see if it's on hold. But you could set it up to get all the notifications, or it'll tell you, hey, it's time to load. If you're preheating, you go into the other room, it'll tell you it's time to load. You can walk back in, load, and it'll tell you when it's done. So you can set all that up through your phone. Now, I have a lot of chefs, their first question is, how do I turn it off? Because they're getting a million notifications on their days off as people are cooking all day. But it's really easy. It's just one button. You go into the app and one button to turn it on, notifications off, just like any other app. So it's very, very beneficial that way, that you can always check and see where your product's at and all of those things.
Yeah, it's wild tech. I'm curious what got you into, because your career path is something that a lot of chefs are interested in. They work the traditional kitchen, whether it's a hotel, country club, or a restaurant, which you started as, working in traditional kitchens. And then at what point, how did you end up at Rationale? Like, what was that career transition like?
Well, it's a little. I always said half of my career I've been in the right place at the right time. And kind of my path to Rational was like that as well. So years ago, I was teaching at a culinary school in Lincoln, Nebraska, and we did a big kitchen renovation of all of our spaces, and I got in 3 Rationales. I knew they were the best, and we wanted to. I keep reading and staying up on trends of Combi ovens are becoming very standard in kitchens, and this use of technology. After doing all the research, Rational kept popping up as the number one. So we got 3 Rationals in, and when we came to get trained on it, there was a sales manager there at the time that said, hey, he needs a freelancer to do it. We have a large freelance network all across the country. Call them Rational Certified Chefs. And what they do is when you buy one of our products, you get a training with it. A Rational Certified Chef comes to your location and does a free training with you and your staff. And so he said, hey, I'm looking for he knew because once we got the Rationals in, I was like super geeked out on him. And he said, hey, you seem to be really into this. Would you be interested in working as a freelancer for us? And I said, yeah, I always liked the side hustle, and so I went to our headquarters just outside of Chicago, did the training, and then I started doing trainings in Nebraska, Iowa, kind of all the Midwest. Got very involved with Rational. I'd work like their trade shows with them, do anything they would need. I was always a yes man. If Rational asked me to do something, I said yes, because I just liked doing it. And it's what it ended up that I did that for about 5 years. And then they had a expansion of their corporate chef team. And the expansion happened to be for the central region, and that's the part of the country that I lived in. So I applied. Obviously I was very I knew a lot of the people at Rational already, and so I was lucky enough to get the position. And then 6 months later, we expanded again. I was promoted, and then moved to Chicago. So
how many? Because I've met some of your team. How many people are on the corporate team as chefs?
As chefs,
as chefs. And what does that look like? Because you mentioned I don't know if you called them ambassadors or what you just.
Our Rational Certified Chefs.
Yes, Rational Certified Chefs. What does that look like? So how many are on the payroll, I should say, and then how many are kind of on the periphery? Kitchens are brutal right now. Everyone knows it. Fewer people on the line, margins tighter than ever, and somehow the expectations keep going up. There's just no room to miss anymore. I was talking to a chef recently who said the biggest stress wasn't the volume, it was the mental load. Babysitting food, timing everything perfectly, trying to be everywhere at once. And that's where equipment matters more than people want to admit. Rational's technology comes up a lot in those conversations. The iCombi Pro, the iVario Pro, overnight roasts that don't need to be checked, custom programs for all your recipes, consistency without hovering, completely automated cleaning, monitoring everything from your phone, the list goes on. And what really buys you the headspace? Less standing over pans and more time to lead the kitchen instead of constantly putting out tiny fires. When you're down to cook, when the prep list is rough, when the production ramps up, think Rational.
So our corporate chef team is soon to be 22 people.
Wow.
We're in the interview process for an open position right now.
Oh, so what are you looking for? No, I'm serious. People listening, what's the ideal candidate?
The ideal candidate for us is we want working experienced chefs. So we want people that have a big background that can walk into any kitchen or any customer that we have and help them with finding solutions. And to know how to do that, you have to be an experienced chef.
Right.
Having been in those executive chef roles, CDC roles, where you've done that. And also, what really helps is having a mixed background too. Restaurants and hotels or country clubs or school food service or anything like that. Where you have a varied background, not just in restaurants or not just in a country club, but having done a little bit, right? And that's what we were kind of looking for ideal candidates. And then somebody that's obviously a fan of the product, somebody that's a user. We want people that come in to already be able to share their experiences that they've had using it, what we call, in the wild, in the field.
Yeah.
So that's what we're always looking for our candidates. A lot of our candidates do, like myself and some of the other people that you met, start off as those freelancers. Because they're the great feeder for our corporate chef team, because we've already done all of a lot of their unit training, and so they're already super users of the Combis anyways, or the iVario. So it really helps that. So
wow. So what is a day in the life for someone that's like, I want. There's people listening right now. They're like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Your job sounds fun, and I'm because everyone on the outside looking in always thinks, oh, every job that's not mine sounds fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Until you do it right.
But what does a day in the life look like for you? Because I'm sure it's so different, right? It's so different, from when you were chef at a country club to being chef at Rationale. I'm sure your day to day looks completely different.
Yeah, and every day is different too. And my role is a little bit different. So we have two. There's a few of us that are national corporate chefs that are the managers of the corporate chef team, and then we have our regional corporate chefs. So in my role, I'm based at our home office in just outside of Chicago, and I handle all of the training that happens for all of those freelancers, for all of our employees, for all of our for customers as well. I'm not out in the field as much. Now most of our corporate chefs are what we call regional corporate chefs, and they're spread out across the country. We have 6 regions. There's 2 chefs per region. And those chefs, what they're doing is their customer support. Most of their role is customer facing. And it's customers that have already bought products, right? So it's just going out, helping them train, helping them get the maximum benefit out of their products. So their day is travel. If you want to live a life on the road, that's a good role for you. Travel is in those roles is about.
You did that role though.
I did that role. Yeah, I did just for 6 months. I was in that role, and that role is you're usually leaving on Sunday night or Monday morning, and you're getting home. On the weekends.
Do you like that? The travel. I did it for a while. I was a corporate chef for a while, and I didn't like it. That's why I didn't want to do it anymore. I don't like the constant room service and.
It's fun at the beginning, right? And some people like it. I did enjoy it, but then I kind of had reasons why I wanted to be home more often, right? So it was good and bad. I wore the same clothes for like 3 months straight, because I would come home, take the clothes down, wash them, and put them right back in the suitcase to leave, after the weekend was over. So they're traveling, but they're, hitting a variety of different customers, and it's customers that, want some additional training or want some extra support. Sometimes that is sales support of the sales team, but most of our role is as customer facing and helping customers find solutions again and get that maximum benefit out of their equipment.
How much time is involved in doing research and development, as in your role, and then also in the regional chefs roles?
It all kind of varies a little bit. Honestly, a lot of the research and development happens in the U.S. does happen with me and my team, but that's not primarily what we do. Like I said, we handle the training, we handle our facility. We have a very busy facility. We trained over 350 chefs last year, came through our facility for training, and it's multiple days of training. But we do some R&D in there. But our home office is based in Germany, and we have large R&D teams there in Germany, and then our iVario is made in France. And so they have a very large R&D team there. But we're always through Connected Cooking. All of us as we cook, we build recipes, we build cooking processes, and we put all that on to Connected Cooking all the time. Yeah. So R&D is always kind of happening, but it just kind of happens maybe more by chance than by just now it's time to do R&D. We have something, or somebody gets asked something, how to do something, and we haven't done it. That's where we start to work on it. We fit that in.
As I was driving up, to do this podcast, I was talking to one of my friends on the phone. I was telling him, we were going to talk, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, they do this great thing. Well, if you have a rationale, they'll fly you up to Chicago and do training with you and stuff like that for chefs." I was like, "Oh, that's cool." He's like, "Yeah, ask him about that." And as we were talking about that, someone smacked me. I got into a car wreck. That's what I was just telling you. I literally got in a car wreck right before we started recording this podcast.
It's crazy, and you're pretty calm about it. That's very impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we have what we call a finishing and large volume academy, or that's one of the academies that we do that we bring chefs for training in. But we do academies all the time, all over the country, and where it's just about learning. It's just about chefs.
Is that open to basically anyone that buys your product, or?
Yeah, the academies, we post them online.
Yeah.
When we have them, and then a lot of times if it's happening out in the field, our sales manager or corporate chefs will, talk to customers and let people know that this academy is available. We only can fit so many people in our kitchens. But we definitely offer that. We're all about education. One thing with Rational is we want to educate people. We want people to use our equipment to the max, and really get that benefit of how it can, using our equipment and using it well can literally change chefs' lives, and how they operate and how they do things and give them time back into their day. So I always say we're not trying to replace cooks. We're trying to take the cooks that we have and make them more efficient. And some of that's by using technology and not having to monitor everything. Let that help you, right? So we're all about education. So if we do them regionally, we have several demo sites that we have all over the country, and then we have the ones where they come to Chicago as well. So those are all just through the connections. Usually at some point during after you purchase your Rational, you're going to see one of our sales managers, that they're also very customer facing still. You're going to see one of our corporate chefs or one of our Rational certified chefs, and that's how people get invited or people know about those things that are coming up.
For people that are thinking about whether it's Rational or another similar company, and they're looking to become a corporate chef or a regional chef, if you were to sell them on it, would you say that having been a chef in the field and then now doing this, quality of life better, pay better? What are some of the perks that are in that role?
Some of the perks are, really some of that quality of life is there, right? You travel a lot in some of the regional roles, but you're still home on the weekends, for the most part. There's a few weekends, mixed in and out of there, but the company
the NRA.
is NRA.
Yeah.
It's just coming up. That's my Super Bowl. I have to oversee all of our cooking that happens at that. It's my show, so I organize that one. And it's coming up, and we were talking about it before we came in here, and I'm already stressed about it. But when you do those weekends, though, you get those days back. So that's you get a lot more. There's a lot more benefits to it. All the insurances and all of that stuff, right?
401k, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, right.
Typically in larger corporate environments, right?
Exactly. And like most of my days are, daytime hours. I'm usually leaving the office, between 5 and 5:30 every day. I get there early, but I leave early too. I get to leave early. I don't have to stay and work those nights and weekends anymore. We get holidays off. It still feels weird to sit at home on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, you're not worried about Mother's Day steamship rounds anymore.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about that anymore. And if I do have to cook those, which we cook a ton of things overnight, I can always check it at any time I want to, because I can roll over and check it from my phone while I'm sleeping and go back to sleep.
Do you miss it, the other side?
At times. I get to be as creative as I want to be still. And I still get to cook a lot. We cook along with our customers a lot. But I like to educate. I was in culinary education before I took in. It was one of my jobs before I came to this one. But yeah, I miss the day to day sometimes. But I think if I did couple line shifts, I would say
You don't miss it that much.
It's this. I'm getting a little older now, and it's hard. This restaurant just is hard on your body, right? It beats you up, and that's also again another thing by looking at equipment is not having to have it be so hard on your body, a little more ergonomic. We talk about with our iVario Pro.
So for people that don't know what that is, because I think everyone knows when rational is like it's its own word. Everyone says, "Oh, put in the rational," but it's not just the rational. But people don't say put it in the iVario Pro. Is like that's not the common lexicon.
Know what that is, yes.
So what is that?
It's
for
a
people
tilt
that don't
skillet.
know what it is. Yeah,
it's a tilt skillet. Essentially, it's a tilt skillet. It's got a very unique heating system, so it heats very quickly. But it's a tilt skillet that has rational technology in it, right? So it's a product of ours, and so it could do it could do everything a regular tilt skillet could do, and then more because it also uses technology. It's got a built-in drain. It's got a built-in water inlet. So I think about all those times where I had to lift like those giant pots of potatoes or pasta, carry the water over to the stove. I never worked at a place that had a pot filler.
Right.
And then you got to carry it off and handle it all. Where now we have our tilt skillet has settings where you can set it to use a basket and it pulls it out when it's done. So it can replace your steam kettles, your tilt skillets. It can be used as a deep fryer.
What's the largest size of this?
40 gallons.
40 gallons. Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, you can make a good amount of stock in there.
Oh, you can make, and the stock that comes out of it's crazy how the stock comes out of it because it's so clear.
Yeah.
And that's like set it and forget it thing, right? We put it in before we go. It cooks however long we set it to cook for, and then it goes into a hole. It's ready the next morning. Come in, open the lid, and then when you start pouring the stock out, it's amazing to see just how clear it is.
And then you have another one, correct, that has microwave technology.
Yes, we have the iHexagon.
Yeah.
That's our newest product.
In the chef group chat that I'm in, they were talking about the iHexagon the other day. They're like, "Oh, you got to get this game changer."
It's a real cool piece of equipment. So essentially, it's a iCombi Pro. Everything that the iCombi Pro can do, but it has the ability to have microwave technology added to it, adaptive microwave technology. So
why would I need that as a chef?
just cook faster.
Okay,
So it's
like
built for
like
speed.
short ribs or something like that.
No, yeah. I mean, it'll cook them faster. But for most part, what it's cooking, places with high throughput. So it's for those quick service places.
Okay.
You're firing quick sandwiches to order. Whatever you need. Usually that's more what it's geared towards. But you can still cook short ribs in it, right?
Okay. Yeah. I'm just curious where the benefit of the microwave technology comes in for day-to-day applications.
It's the speed. It's the speed. But the cool thing is there is a lot of speed ovens out there. But ours is still an actual cooking system with all the benefits of an iCombi Pro, being able to dehumidify the cabinet, add moisture, maintain all of that. Plus, then now it has the addition to speed, so your food quality comes out a lot better. So you're getting the benefits of having a Combi already, but now you have that adaptive microwave technology, and it cooks it faster and to give you better quality food in the end. So.
One of the things that the last episode, I don't know if it's the last episode because I'm several episodes ahead, but I did an episode with Dan Kennedy and we were talking about cooking duck and how most people don't know how to cook duck because it's undercooked. I mean, it's rare duck is really tough, or medium rare duck. Sometimes you want to get it closer to medium. But one of the things that I know that you've been working on is like the Peking duck thing, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for people that wanted like a master class on how to use the rational for the perfect duck, can you walk us through what that process looks like?
Yeah, it's the one thing with Peking duck is you got to give it the time that it needs. So I have all this, and it's going to be available on ConnectedCooking probably by the end of the week. So I just got to add a couple pictures into it, and then I hit let it go live. So the whole process is there, and but it's the first step is getting quality duck really matters.
Yeah.
And I have a specific brand of duck that I work with, and do a lot of work with them, and their ducks are absolutely phenomenal. That's what got me into Peking duck anyways, was they donated a bunch of duck to this event and said, people said, we want to see Peking duck. I was like, okay, I better figure out how to make Peking duck. So we go through, we hang them in our cooler and let them dry. I even put an extra fan, a little battery powered fan, to really get that skin dry. I dry them for 2 days. And then it's kind of very similar to the traditional process of we sew them up, inject them with the air compressor to blow up the skin, release that. And then I use our iVario Pro they all get dipped back in boiling water just to tighten that skin back up. And then I use one of our 2-pan models. And so, and the other side, I have that glaze going, which usually, vinegar, some kind of sweetener. A lot of times maltose. I use maltose and honey because I like the browning effect of it more. And then some water. So I glaze them and then they go back in the cooler for a day. If you have the ability to have like a dry aging cabinet, that speeds that up and really helps that process happen a little bit quicker. And then after that 1 day of drying overnight, it's a really easy process because we have them hanging and we load them. We hit the Peking duck button and it tells us when it's preheated, and we load them, and usually they take about an hour. Depends on the size of the unit that you're using and then how many you have in the cavity. But I've cooked 24 Peking ducks at one time in our largest unit, and they come out there just perfect. They're perfect. I had a chef that was a Chinese chef that came in earlier this year, and he's been cooking Peking duck for 30 years. And by the time he was done, he came in to test in the office because they were thinking about getting a Combi. When they were done, he asked me about my process. He's like, can I have your recipe? And so I was like, sure, it's right here.
So you still get the glassy skin and
oh yeah, the skin's like a cracker. It's just perfect.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very, and it's very consistent too because of the technology in the unit. It's going to make adjustments to climate, to the temperature, all those things based on the readings that it takes of how much product is in there. So sometimes that time might change, but I'm always going to get the same result whether I'm cooking 1 duck or 20 ducks. They'll all look the same because the unit will make those adjustments for me. So I don't have to do the thinking. And I always say it's, everybody sometimes is afraid to use our intelligence. Chefs, I know how we are, right?
Just set it at 350.
They want to be in control, right? Yeah. They want to say, I want to, set it this long and then change the humidity and do all this. And so my answer to that is, I was like, well, do you use a map app when you drive in a city you don't know? And everybody says yes. It's like, so you don't question when to make a turn, do you? Like, no, you just turn when it tells you to turn. So basically, it's the same thing in the Combi. I'm going to tell it using the intelligence what I want it to be in the end, and then the unit's going to take it from there.
And for people that have never worked with one, there's a lot of presets that come with it. So roasted chicken or eggs or whatever, right? Roasting a prime rib, for example.
Yeah,
it's all going to be. You're going to have a button for it, right?
Yeah, it might not say, it's not going to say prime rib per se, but it has those options in there. Yeah, so it comes preloaded with the iCombi Pro and the iVario Pro and the iHexagon all come with preloaded cooking processes in those. And you can, during those processes, you can make adjustments to it. Yeah. If you want a little darker, you want a little browner, you want it this temperature or that temperature, I've done this. And then you can save it and name it, Brandon's prime rib. And you can put that in there. So then next time I don't have to think about that. I can just I need to go to prime rib and put it in there. And then every time you get that same even result. And for people that are using our equipment, like I said, all those processes come pre-built in there. And if somebody needs to know what's the best process for that, we also have, we talk about education. We have a chef line that you can call, 866-306-CHEF. We say it all the time, right? You can call us and it rings to our corporate chef team. And then we can say, hey, this is the best cooking path for that direction. And the service is always there. We have people signed on nights and weekends. So you can call and ask what's some people like for the prime rib, for example, it doesn't say prime rib, but it says low temperature roasting. right? Where that goes into a cook and then it goes into a hold if you wanted to. So we can, tell people that might be the best best setting to use for this. Same thing in the iVario Pro. Whether they want to do a braise or a sauce, we can tell them how to do that. And a lot of times it's even got a search function. It's got a help button, like all right there on the screen. And that can kind of send you in the right direction of what you need. Plus, we're going to be there for training and all that. So that all comes pre-built into the unit already. So you can, it has so much capability already there, even to the point where you can set, rationals worldwide. So we have offices like we do here all over the world. So we have a lot of what we call secondary. You can set a secondary cuisine on it. Yep. So I can add Chinese cuisine, but it still reads in English, and then I get extra settings allowed. Somebody asked me about, can I cook sushi rice in there? So of course, what's the setting for it? It's sushi rice, but you got to bake Japan as the secondary cuisine, and then sushi rice pops up. I like to do char siu pork. Same thing. But then I just save it, and then it's always in my saves.
You say char siu pork. I was doing an event in Dallas when I was a chef, and char siu pork is one of these things that I can't eat to this day.
Really?
Because I was doing an event for like 500 people, and I was serving char siu pork, and I had an SUV at the time, and I had all the char siu pork stacked up in the back, and it sloshed everywhere. So all the sauce from the char siu, and it's sticky, right? It's soaked into the carpet of my car. And so, I don't know how long I kept the car, but let's just say for the next 4 years, every day, no matter how many times I cleaned it, every day was char siu pork in my car on my hour drive to and from work. Yeah.
So even smelling it, I'm sure. It's
just talking about it, I can smell char siu pork.
I bet.
Yeah. But I think what's interesting about, for a lot of chefs that are listening right now, there's so much that you could do. But there's a lot that I want to ask you to kind of geek out a little bit for my own understanding, but also for the audience. Like I have chef questions that I would say, okay, so if you don't mind, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Like,
go ahead.
Like these are some questions I have. So if I had duck, and we were talking about cooking duck properly, one of the challenges that a lot of chefs have is they want to dry age duck, right? For a lot of reasons. One, you're gonna get that funk on it, but also you're gonna dry out the skin, which is gonna lead to a nicer, crispier skin. Now, I'm sure there's probably not a specific setting for that particular instance, but I'm sure there's a way that maybe you could, you probably can't get the funk, but you could probably activate the dry aging process in the rational, right? Like to dry out the skin a little bit before you hit the roast.
Yeah.
On the crown. I'm just saying crown, not legs.
Yeah. And the easiest way to probably do that is when you're ready to do that. One thing that we've done is, we don't refrigerate, so we can only go so cold, right?
Right.
And so the unit has the lowest setting in the Combi of 86 degrees. Usually it's lower than that, but it's just, that's the lowest it reads. What I do with that, and I'll do the same thing for chicken as well, is I know I'm ready to cook it, so I'm going to put it in and I'm going to put it on dehydrate, for 15, 20 minutes. And what that does is that's pulling out all that moisture and starts to dry out that skin a little bit. So you get a crispy
product. We used to stand there with a blow dryer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To blow dry the chicken or to blow dry the duck or whatever, because we didn't have enough time to dry it in the cooler. So for the people that don't have the ability to dry age their ducks or whatever, and they have it on the menu, and maybe it's a popular item, and they, I heard an interview with Mario Carbone the other day on one of these podcasts where he was saying that he was dry aging ducks, I think it was ducks, across the street or something like that. Or it was something that he was dry aging, but like maybe you don't have the ability to dry age. So you turn on that setting, that dehydrate.
Yep, just for a quick 15, and then you want to go right into the cook afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So what we do is we'll do that. It'll be 15, 20 minutes. It dehydrates, it really pulls out all that excess moisture right off top of that skin. Pull it out, then go into your cooking process. Once it's preheated, put it back in, and you're going to get a much crispier skin.
So you probably won't get the funk that you're looking for, but you'll get the crispiness of the drier skin. The funk's going
to happen, for dry aging. You need time for that. There's no way around that one. But so you can get that crispier skin, and I think that's kind of the that's like one of the best parts about cooking duck, right? Is
Yeah.
eating the good crispy skin is the best part. I love the meat too, but like, the skin is always like, that's what you got to have that.
Right.
And I've even got it down where I tested enough duck breast for I know how to cook a breast out of the package. Where it comes out, it's perfectly done. I got the right setting for it. Skin is crispy every time.
Another one that comes up often is like what I call Delta cooking. I'm not sure if that's the correct
Delta
term.
T, yeah.
Delta T, right? So I'm just going to use a prime rib as an example, and you want the temperature's going up while the temperature's coming down at the same time, so eventually it meets in the middle. So you get that perfect end-to-end medium rare, medium, or whatever it is, whatever temperature you're trying to go for. But I'm sure that's probably more advanced, because I'm thinking when I was learning this, it was 10 years ago. So I'm sure the Delta T is much more efficient now.
Yeah, and Delta T is a tricky subject. Usually people start asking me a lot about it if they want to do it manually and they want to choose what the Delta is. I say you got to do some research, because if you set your Delta wrong, you run that risk of having it hang out in the temperature danger zone too long, and you're going to get spoilage.
Yeah.
But all of our low temperature, kind of long cook time processes that we already have an automatic built-in Delta. So you don't even have to think about it. Again, it's going to make that decision and even that out. So that's why when we cook prime rib a lot, because it's just so popular for so many of our customers, we pull it out. It's evenly cooked end to end, because you can, we look at the HACCP data that's on the unit you can pull off through ConnectedCooking or onto a USB stick just to see when it finishes cooking. But you can start to see that happen where it starts to come down so that they meet, so that the cabinet temperature, I usually set mine to 131 because I want even pink all the way across. And you can see that, this goes up a degree, this comes down a degree, and then they meet right at 131, and it's just like perfectly cooked, a much higher yield. It's money in your pocket. We were talking with customers about doing porchetta, and I was telling them that. I was like, you'll get a 15% higher yield by using that process and getting that pre-built Delta that you don't have to worry about. It's gonna know after it uses the internal temperature and the cabinet temperature. It's gonna make that adjustment so that it gets that perfect result every time.
And does it also factor in a resting period for larger meat, or let's say rack of lamb or something like that? Does it factor in a resting period so it's gonna be more tender when it's time to carve it?
Yeah, I mean, it's usually when you're using those intelligent processes, it goes into a product where it's called maturing, and that's essentially like the resting period.
And by the way, for the audience listening, I know some of this shit. I'm just playing dumb for you guys. I'm asking the questions.
Yeah, no,
I know all this stuff. Come on.
Yeah, exactly, of course. But no, so it comes out rested. That maturing stage is essentially the resting period where it's making it more tender, and that's the other thing I like about it. It's ready to go when it's done. When it tells you it's in hold, you can pull it out and start cutting right away. You don't have to, whether it's a brisket or a piece of prime rib or anything that's been cooked overnight, it's ready to go.
I had Jess Pryles on. She's she's a meat scientist basically, and we had a good conversation about brisket. And like what's really interesting about brisket is that the majority of the really interesting stuff, and I'm paraphrasing what she said, the really interesting stuff is actually happening in the rest. But that's what people are not really factoring in. Everyone's so concerned about the cook of the brisket, but everyone's kind of not discussing the resting part, which is probably doing more for the brisket and in terms of a qualitative difference, separating some of the best briskets in the world from others, if that makes sense. Yeah,
exactly. And we have the ability to smoke in our units. It's an accessory that you can buy to add to your unit. It goes to almost all of our combis, and it's. I press people a lot with some of the brisket that we pull out, out of it. And I used to be a partner in a barbecue restaurant, so I've cooked my fair share of briskets over the years. And it's pretty impressive how it comes out and the texture of it. And it has those things, but it's never been wrapped. You don't have to do all those extra steps. You don't have to have somebody. I always say for you don't have to find that person to work overnight. To make sure everything's that the fires are still going. And that's the thing too, is it's even if you want to have, I'm never going to say, I'm sitting here in Texas right now, and I'm never going to say your wood burning pit is, don't use that offset smoker, because that's what I started on, just a stick burner. But there's always that point where you wrap the brisket, right? You're going to wrap it in the butcher paper. Some people wrap it in foil, whichever your preference is. And I don't judge anybody on what they wrap in. But having that, once you do the wrap and you put it back in the smoker, you're not getting any benefit of the smoker anymore. It's just cooking. You're not getting any more of that smoke flavor. So what I recommend for those places to do, instead of having the cost of burning the wood, is when you're at that wrapping stage, finish it in the combi. Take it off, finish it in there. You got all your smoke flavor on there. But then that's going to do that stage. You don't have to take the time to wrap. You don't have to take the time to do any of the rest, because it's going to finish cooking and then go right into the rest. That's what I did. That's how we did it at our steakhouse that we also served brisket at. Was we finished them all. We smoked them on the pit and then finished them all in the combi. But I can get a really good, my brisket. You open that door, you smell the smoke when I come in the morning, and I put that in and I go home. Like, that's the last thing I do. And it just cooks overnight, and it's waiting for me, ready to carve. So I don't have to wait for that resting period either. It's just, it's ready to sell, ready to eat. So
in most of the larger meat roasting formats, is that maturing phase already
built in?
Yeah, it's already.
Yep.
Interesting. One of the other things that's on my mind when it comes to using the rational is sous vide cooking. So everyone right now, sets up their immersion circulator, they bag it, they waste too much plastic. And that immersion circulator is great, but it goes in a plastic Lexan that's too small, especially when you're a busy restaurant. And then the temperature drops because you have too many pork chops in there, or whatever the case may be.
Uneven cooking because it takes too long to get back hot again. Yeah.
Right. But that process can be simplified in the rational. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. It was one of those things that, had this big, beautiful, I was the chef of this place, and we had this big, beautiful rational. And, I remember next to it, I'd have my circulator set up. And then one day someone said, why don't you just circulate it? And there was like, wait, you could do that? Like, I don't know why 2 and 2 didn't, it didn't click.
Same thing for me.
It didn't click, but yeah, just, you could do the same thing, right? You could load up the entire rational. And Chef David Breeden was on here, and he was talking about how he does, his whole thing is precision time and temperature cooking. At the perfect temperature for the right amount of time that you're going to get the perfect result, and then you're just going to go through the browning process. But you could literally load up your rational with lamb racks, steam it, right? Eliminate the bags. You could eliminate that labor step, and set it for that precise amount of time for and temperature. Are those settings already built in?
Yeah,
a lot of that.
Yep, a lot of those are already built in there. And sometimes the settings are, that's where I mentioned the chef line is give us a call, because like when we do beans, we do them using a meat setting. Like we take dried beans, add water to them, put them in the combi, set the setting, go home. They're perfect the next day. But for that case, for the proteins, yes, it's there. It's going to be in there somewhere. And I use steamed fish for that one, because I could use the probe. And got great results because I listened to that episode, and I had never thought about that, of trying that technique where you low temperature steam it, and then pull it out, caramelize, and sell. So it gives great results. And if people still want to sous vide, traditionally with in a bag, because maybe they want to put herbs or other flavorings, and they want to infuse some of that flavor in there, then you can just put it right on. Right in the combi. That's the other thing with our iVario Pro also, is you can use that as a sous vide. It has the heating elements on the bottom, so it has a rack that gets inserted, and you just plop your bags in there. It's got sous vide settings already built into it.
So you could take the iVario Pro, set the temp to, I'm just making this up, 135 Fahrenheit, and then just vacuum pack whatever you want and just throw it in there, and it's going to just keep that water temperature exactly the same for an extended period of time.
Yep. And it still, some people talk about that and they're worried about, well, there's no water movement, right? And there's water movement there, you just can't see it, because the way our heating system works, it's got heating tiles in there, and those all act independently from each other. So it almost kind of creates a wave effect. That's how we can do, this is my favorite thing to show chefs, and they never believe it in the iVario Pro. I can make risotto in 15 minutes, and I only have to stir it 3 times.
Explain.
You know, so
explain this blasphemy right now.
I know.
Hope David Chang's not listening.
Yeah, I had to explain this to 2 Italian chefs late last year, and I got them to believe. But no, so it has we have a process in there. It's the risotto button, right? You use the intelligent process for risotto, and it starts off very similar, right? You toast if you have any shallots, garlic, or whatever any vegetables in there, and then you're toasting your rice. And with the iVario Pro, it cooks with you along the way. So there's a little question mark is saying, are you fully seared? Which means, are you fully toasted? You hit yes, it prompts you to deglaze. So then you deglaze. Yes, I've deglazed. Then you add all of your stock cold. And that's what throws people off first when they see me dump all the stock in there cold. You put the core temperature probe in there so it has a second sensor to monitor it, and then you walk away. And then it will start beeping, and you come over there and you give it a stir. You walk away, and it'll beep again, and you usually stir it. And then the last stir is also when it calls refine, which is when you add your butter, cheese, or any of your other things that you're adding to it at the end. But because of our heating system and those tiles acting independently, they almost create like a wave effect that pulls out the starch from the arboreal rice and gives it that creaminess. Like it's 100%.
Wow.
And if anybody's ever tried to do risotto in volume, it's horrible to do in volume because you got all these rondos or however you're trying to cook it on. And this one, I get the same result every time, and I can do it, depending on what size of model I have, depends on how much I can make, but you can do it so easily, right? And consistently every time. Because, if I'm standing here making risotto and you're standing there making risotto next to me, ours are probably going to look a little bit different in how much we added, how quickly we added our stock, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Where now you can get it the same every single time because it's cooking with you.
Interesting. So a lot of restaurants will take the risotto, let's say 80, 90%, and then chill it and then put it in kits and on the pickup, they're just adding it, finishing it with whatever they choose to finish it with, cheese, butter, whatever. Is the ability with the iVario Pro, you could still do that. You could take it to the 80% without it becoming too starchy, where it's still going to pick up nicely.
Yeah. It's a time-based setting. So you could cook for as long as you tell it to. So all you'd have to do it that way would be cook it a little bit less time-wise, and then also adjust if you're worried about the too much starch coming out of it or anything like that. Adjust maybe your liquid ratio a little bit. So that can definitely be done. We've had customers do that. The iVario is it's one of the most versatile pieces of equipment I've ever seen because it can just do so many different things, and it's all these solutions that you didn't think you had. I worked at
but it'll still burn shit, right?
If you wanted to, it can. If you wanted to, you could burn. Oh yeah, of course. But we had a customer that works for an athletic dining and made queso. Right, that was a big pot. They made big batches of queso all the time. They'd always burn half of it because they were using it in a manual function, just turning it on to pan fry and going. Yeah. And I said, use the sauce button, and then check back in. And how was the case? Best queso we've ever made. Didn't have any burn. So using those processes, because you can turn it into what we call a flamethrower if you want to. You can burn anything. But if you use it correctly and how it's designed to be used, you're not going to have that. You're not going to have that waste. And then it is a hell of a lot easier to clean up too. The way it heats them, because it's not a nonstick bottom, but because of how precise the heat is, you don't have that sticking, that scorching, that scalding. It's amazing to dump however many pounds of beef in there for beef stew, and that sear stays the same the whole time. Or usually it dips down, right? We have always had power on demand, so you put that meat in there, that tile senses that it's cold, and kicks up the heat.
Right.
You could even, if you're reducing a stock down for a demi, you could even turn off some of those tiles so that all your impurities go to that corner, and they're really easy to scoop out.
That's
because you could turn it to set it in different zones. Wow! So you can do up to 4 zones.
You don't have to put the pot a little bit off the burner anymore.
Nope, that's exactly what you're doing. Wow. Or I can turn off the back burner, the back tiles, and if I'm rendering, like when I make like clam chowder, I always render some pork product in there, right? And you always got to take that out while you saute all the other ingredients. Well, now I can just push that bacon to the back. That heat's not on, and I could just keep cooking in the front, right? But they do the same thing with jambalaya. You could see if you divide it, the pans by however many tiles it has, depending on the size. If I know where the line is, like on this table, if I crack an egg right on that line where those two tiles meet and this tile's on, this tile's off, only this half of the egg is really going to cook. This one will get a little bit of residual heat, but it's still pretty much a raw egg. So it's very, very precise. And that's what makes it so much different than all the other tilt skillets on the market, because you're getting that technology in there.
Interesting. One of the other questions I have, it's one of my least favorite subjects is brunch.
I haven't met too many chefs that say, "Oh, I love to cook brunch."
By the way, it's a good business model. Like I understand why people do. I understand why people do brunch. My problem with brunch stems from the fact that you're usually cooking dinner and then opening and cooking brunch. If you have two separate teams, right, do all the brunch you want.
Oh, it's exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be there doing brunch, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, it's on Sunday. And usually everybody had a good time on Saturday. After service,
But if you have an AM team that's strictly focused on AM services, hey, more power to you. You set up your business correctly.
To eat brunch.
I love it. I love it as long as I'm off, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But one of the frustrating things with brunch is, in most places, they have a ton of poachers, right? So it's the salmon Benedict, it's the spinach Benedict, it's the smoked hash with eggs on top or whatever. And I know, places that I've run before, we would circulate the eggs in an immersion circulator, and then, get that onsen egg texture, and then we just crack it, firm up the white, and some, dip it really quickly in some poaching water, and then serve it. But I don't know why I never thought, well, can't you just do that in the rational?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
There's a poached egg setting on there, and essentially that's what it's designed for, is to give you that. Getting that egg to that texture where you can then take it out, chill it, and it'll be perfect on pickup. And you can do that. We just run it. A lot of times we crack it through a spoon in case there's any of that little bit of uncooked, kind of whitish, on the outside. Or a lot of times what we're doing, if we're doing it more a la carte style, because we have both products sitting there, is we just finish the eggs right in the iVario really quick just to dip them. Because we have. You can, in one of our two smaller 2-pan models, you can have portion baskets in it.
Right.
So you can dump it in there real quick and go.
So someone could set the poach setting on the rational, keep the eggs in the shell.
Yep.
Right. So we're not removing them from the shell. We're putting them in the shell. You're cooking them for the required amount of time. It comes out. You're chilling them if necessary, and then for service, all you're doing is cracking that egg, firming the white, selling it.
Exactly. Or some people will even just dip the whole egg in the shell still in there to firm that up a little bit, pull it out, and go.
Yeah.
So there's, everybody has their own techniques for it, but that was always the thing. Yeah, getting, poaching an egg, you don't think it's that hard, but when you got to do it 200 times,
right,
you're going to screw up some eggs, and you're having to change the water and all of that. And I saw, I've seen videos of people poaching all these eggs on the stove, and there's a rational combi sitting right there, where they could be doing that.
Yeah. Well, it's one of these things. It's like you have this impressive technology, and you just don't know everything that it can do. And so we just say, we'll just poach it this way because I know how to do that.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
But we don't ever think like, oh, well, we have this.
And that's what we're always trying to share. Right? We're always trying to tell, like, let this help you. It's just getting people to, you
guys need to start like a rational TikTok page where you just do little.
Well, we have a content page that's coming actually. Yeah. It's actually live now. It's going to get started promoted real quickly where we have content.
Yeah, here's 100 things you didn't know the rational could do.
And that's through, we have a training app for that.
Yeah.
We do have it's called Rational Global. If you type in Rational into your search system, no matter what you're on, you're going to get two things, ConnectedCooking, and you're going to get the training app. And that training app it pulls up literally the screen, the display, and you push on it, and you push on that button, it takes you to a video. It shows best practices for that, of how to use it. Or it explains the settings kind of in a format. So there's lots of options for that. And it's getting people to think differently.
Yeah.
Like I said, chefs get set in their ways, and it's just like,
think differently. It's efficient. It's efficient.
Yeah.
Like in today's day and age where everyone's complaining that they don't have enough staff, they don't have enough cooks. And it's like, hey, you have this piece of technology that can alleviate a lot of stress from your day to day.
Yeah,
use it.
Exactly. We had one of my favorite stories. Speaking of brunch again, my our vice president of culinary was working with the customer and showed them how we do our breakfast. And he's like, I can get rid of 2 cooks on my for brunch. And he's like, hey, we're not trying to take anybody's job. He's like, no, they don't want to be there anyways. So it's just like that, right? You're taking it. You don't have enough people anymore.
You're reallocating your resources, right? So hey, you don't need them to sit there in front of the eggs anymore. You can now put on the poach setting, and now they could be doing some of the other things that are more important that are going to really affect, your outcome. In the restaurant. One last question I have when it comes to cooking, because I think this is an important one, and it's something that I heard recently, but I haven't seen. But when I heard it, I was like, okay, that's interesting. Someone said that they no longer make their stocks the traditional way in a pot. They only do it overnight in the Combi oven. And I was like, okay, explain this black magic, because I really don't get it.
Yeah, it's bulletproof, right? Now, I always say, people ask me what's the best way to cook stock, I say, which piece of equipment do you have? Because they both do the same. They both can make great stocks. But in the Combi, there's a lot of Combis out there, right?
Yeah,
a lot of our Combis, we put a lot of them in the market every year. But we have a setting that we use. It's not called stock. It's called soft cooking. But yeah, it basically gets the.
So people are just putting like everything in a hotel pan, basically.
Yeah. I used to do that where I would, and I was like, stock was one of my turning points, because I, was trained very classically, right, by a couple really good chefs that knew all the classical techniques and all that stuff. And the day I started cooking, the first time I cooked stock in a Combi, I thought, this is my world's changed now, because I never thought, if you'd asked me 2 years ago if I was going to make stock in a Combi, I'd have told you you're crazy. This was like 8 years ago now. But I'd even do my brown stocks in there. I'd do it all in the same pan. I would start off by roasting the bones, and then I would add the vegetables and roast those longer, caramelize those, caramelize my tomato paste, and then just add the water and my aromatics to it. Cover the bones and put them back in there on that setting, and we'll go home, come in the next day, and my stock is done. And it's so clear, because what it does is it gets to whatever temperature you tell it you want to get to, and then it holds at that temperature. So if I want my stock to get to 206 and hold at that temperature, now it's like steeping tea in there. So you're just extracting all that flavor, and you get amazing results. And I always brown the bones in those hotel pans, because then I get all the
all the fond
in there as well. So you're not losing any of that. So it's a crazy way to do it, and it was something that I never thought could be done. And
you get a much more clear product.
Much more clear product.
Flavor significantly more intense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know necessarily more intense. It depends on how good you were making stock before.
Yeah,
but yeah, you get I don't notice any it's lacking any flavor.
Yeah.
Some people will take them and cook them down just a little bit afterwards, because the only thing that happens is you don't have any loss.
Yeah.
Same amount of water that was in there at the beginning is going to be in there at the end. Some people account for that.
Right.
That little bit of evaporation. But I always especially if you're doing it in the iVario Pro, there's a boil down button, so you can cook it down just a little bit if you wanted to strengthen that back up, because you don't have the loss, so your yield's much better. And my thing was, I always had in the restaurants, you only have so much range space. So one restaurant's only on the line, so every night we'd have to put up these big pots of stock on at the end after service.
Are you putting the whole stock pot in there, or are you putting?
No,
are you putting
hotel
pans?
pans?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But I think of how many times I walked in and we had a big pot of water on there, and the cooks either turned it down too much, or forgot to turn it down, and I'm coming in, the restaurant smells like carbon, because it's basically what's left, or the stock smells like a swamp, because it didn't ever really cook. So I don't have that loss anymore either. So again, it's about making it be more efficient, and also you're going to have less waste.
Yeah. I know I said that you talk about the swamp and the smell of sometimes with sous vide you get that too. Like when you put protein or whatever, and it's not seared or anything. And you're going a very low temperature for a very long time. So short ribs is a good example. You're doing a 48-hour short rib or something like that, and then when you finally open it up, it's cooked right, but it has that
smell to it.
Yeah, has a little funk to it. I've talk to chefs that they'll blast it with an initial high heat to sanitize it, to pasteurize it, so that way when they do open it up, it doesn't have that funk. So maybe the first 5 minutes of the long temperature cooking is at 190 or 212 or whatever, right? So you're killing any bacteria on the surface. So when you do open up the bag, you're not going to have that
smell,
that purge, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you could program that.
But we have a braise setting in the iCombi Pro where it basically does that. You put your short ribs in a pan, and the first step is searing them, so it's killing off all the bacteria. It sears them for you set how dark you want that sear to go, and then it tells you when to add your liquids. You add your liquids and then shut the door, and it goes from there. And we always get those. It goes over. We always recommend doing that overnight. And the only reason we say go overnight is because let your third shift do the work for you, right? We call the overnight cooking the third shift, because then you have the equipment for available use the rest of the day. You can come in, take those short ribs out, do whatever you need with them, and then you have the combi still active the rest of the day, or you could be cooking so many other things instead of having to be wrapped up, just cooking one product all day.
Yeah, I mean, a smart operation. One of the smartest operations that I've ever popped into. They had a time schedule on their combi. Like, okay, from 3 to 5, it's this. As soon as 5 o'clock opens up, 5 to 7, it's this. And every for the entire week, their prep schedule was in front of the combi, so they knew, okay, so it's 5 o'clock. We gotta jump into eggs or whatever the case may be. It's like it was just always going.
Yeah, if you deep dive into it, you can actually program all that in now.
Really?
It's called a plan, and you can program that all in there. And this is where usually when you want to do something at that level, that's where it's really great to reach out to our corporate chef team, because we can come help you with that. And you can have that plan where it tells you at this time you want to start cooking this thing. It's going to alert you that it'll be preheated and ready for you to go at that time. So you could build all that in there. The schedule away works really well too. A lot of people have to do that. I found people have to do that with the combi because it's in such high demand. I got asked a question one time. I was doing a presentation, and this was when I was still a freelancer or national certified chef. I would do sales presentations too, and for them as a contractor, and they would ask me, like, what's your problem with your combi? I was like, the only problem I have is I only have one. That's my problem, because we had people waiting, like, because we started using it so much that it was always seemed like somebody is jostling to get into it to get their work done. So.
It's funny because one my very first experiences with a rational were for wreath. I know you don't like the term retherm. What do you?
It's what we call it. For ours is finishing. That's our term for it.
We would do large banquets, so we could do 1,000 people. I don't remember what the time was. I think it was like every 8 minutes you could put a whole rack in and out of plates, and then it's just sauce, garnish, and go. And it was just a major labor savings, time savings, stress savings. It was always cooked perfect. The plates were always hot. We put in the Pizza Hut bag afterwards, right? Over the
thermal cover goes on
the thermal cover to make sure everything stays hot. But it's a game changer.
It's separating your production from service, right? And you can do the work when you have time to do it instead of in those big plate ups like that, and you're pulling the valet drivers and the front desk people, and none of them want to be doing that.
Right.
So the place, they start to look kind of sloppy really quick. And so, and then you don't have to sit in the hot box either, because
and not only that, but you don't have to like wait around. Hey, the contact said to give it another hour. They're still doing more speeches. And it's like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's lots of options for it too. The other thing is I don't have food that's, plated. I don't have a wedding party for 400 people, and only 300 people show up.
Yeah.
So if I'm, you're talking to your banquet captain and they're saying, hey, they don't have near as many people here, you pull some plates back. That food is still perfect. There's nothing wrong with it, right? And you can reuse it for something else,
right?
Instead of it going into the hot box to die.
Yeah.
And because then at the end of the night, nobody wants to eat it because it's been sitting in a hot box for 2 hours. You can still serve it for staff meal. You can still do whatever you want to it. But it's still perfectly good because it's been properly cooked and chilled. It just wasn't finished yet. So it's a great system.
So wrapping up, I want to ask you this question. So if this is your chefy question. If you had 4 chefs that should be on Mount Rushmore for you,
okay,
who are those 4 chefs that you think are the top 4 that influenced you as a chef?
Okay, so influencing me, never really worked with any of these people, but these are the ones that I always think had a big impact and that were ones that kind of changed the way I thought. One was Fergus Henderson from St. John's in
Nose to
London.
tail pioneer, right?
Yep. And once I read a article that was on him in some magazine, and then just took this deep dive, and the way he thinks and his philosophies and all that was just so different, right? And so then I started testing all of those bits and pieces and found that I love to cook those products. So he's one. Probably Alain Passard. Just his, again, like reading his books and researching him and seeing everything that he's done. And I'm a meat guy, and I just was shocked at his restaurant. And he took vegetables, right, and made it all about that. I have to say Marco Pure White, because when chef I was working for brought in a copy of White Heat, and I was like, this looks like us. This was in the 90s, and it was just, that book was also really, again, just had a big influence me and the way I thought. And then probably a standard answer for people from my area would be Thomas Keller. When I first really got into this, he was setting this new standard, in the U.S. for chefs and how restaurants could be. And I like the story, because he ended up creating this, landmark restaurant, but failed first, but stuck with it. And so I always thought that was a great influence as well, and everybody has that book. We've been visiting some restaurants around Austin, and everybody has their books out on their shelves, and you see that one in seems like almost every kitchen.
Everyone. And if you don't, you should.
Exactly.
Get the French Laundry Cookbook. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
The new one's really good, the French Laundry per se. I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't. I've given that one to a gift to somebody, but I haven't gotten it myself. It's just I buy a lot of books, and I have a book storage problem right now. I haven't bought that one.
That one, I would say, is probably my. It's basically, I mean, it obviously, literally, right? I'm going to sound stupid saying this, but it's basically the French Laundry version of today, right? Because they've updated so much of the big pot blanching and the way that they're the way that they're brining fish now, or whatever the case may be. Like all the things that you were doing in French Laundry, 2000. Are now like, okay, now we have the updated version and the new way that we're doing things. So it's a great book. I highly recommend it.
It's great. He's a great guy, and in all of his kitchens, guess what he uses for instead of ovens? He got all of our equipment. So we have a good relationship with his group.
Yep. Last question. If there's something like, if you had like the one secret that everyone should know, like the one secret setting or the one thing that not everyone thinks about that you could cook in the rationale, that would blow people's mind, what is it?
That's a tough one.
I'm going to give you a minute to think. I could cut out the thinking.
It's there's so many different things for that, and a lot of it's pretty pretty simple. But the things that throw people the most are simple things like the octopus that we just put in there and don't have to check, and it comes out perfect texture every time. But
what's your octopus? I guess it's an octopus setting, right?
Yeah, it's called octopus. And it takes it through. You pull it out, you chill it, carve it, sear it, and you get that great char on it. It's great. A lot of times mine is the simple things like that blow people away are we talked about earlier, braising, all of those type of things that people don't think is going to turn out. Probably a crazy one that I didn't think was going to work when I first heard about it. And this was the go-to for family meal at places was we have a setting called pasta and sauce. And this one blows people away, where you put in dried pasta, water, and your sauce, and you stir it all together. And it's one of the two things that has to get covered in the combi. And you put the probe in, put the lid on, and put it in there and set it for the amount of time that the pasta is supposed to cook for. And it comes out, and you stir it, and you have this ready to go pasta. I was like, there's no way this is going to work. When I remember I was in my initial training. It's great. It's perfect for that. For the buffets, for the family meals. We show school food service is a big customer of ours, right? And it's great for mac and cheese, right? Your mac and cheese goes in there, you don't have to stir it. So things along that. All you have to do is just takes a little bit of R&D, because every sauce is different. To get your pasta and your ratios figured out. But that's one thing that blows. It shocked me when it came out. and it shocks a lot of people because nobody ever thinks it's going to work.
Yeah, I got to see this in
As
action.
long as you do the ratios correct,
Yeah.
and people are like, how do I find out the ratios? And it's like, if you're on that setting, hit the question mark, and it tells you those ratios right there.
I want you to send me the social media page with all the 101. I want to see the pasta on there soon.
You got
prove it.
Yeah.
Well, Chef, if people want to find you, where can they follow along and give you a follow and see what you're up to?
Typically Instagram.
Yeah.
It's just my name, Brandon.Harpster. And then it's Rational USA is the on social media is where we put a lot of our content for the US. And then that's the best place to find me.
Well, let's go cook some pasta, Chef.
Let's do it. I'm always down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's the show. If you liked it, make sure you leave 5 stars. Nothing less than 5 stars. If you want more Chef's PSA, go to chefspsa.com. Get yourself some books, get yourself some merch, including Culinary Leadership Fundamentals and the Line Cook Survival Manual. If you want early access to episodes, you can get them on Spotify and Substack by becoming a paid member. The link is in the notes. We'll see you next week. Hit the porno music.
No Andre in the kitchen, mixing, dropping chef knowledge, no fiction. Stirring up the beats, heating up the session. Listen close, classes in session.